The whole show is centered around a theme of spirituality, which is a very complicated idea to explain if you really want to explain it. And I would like to say that the spirituality of the exhibition can be interpreted as easily as an unseen world. Visual art is a field that mainly deal with the seen world. So when you have to deal with the topic of unseen world, it's difficult. So that's why I like to center my artistic practice around it and explore what you can do with the unseen world in my artwork. The first floor gallery, when people first walk in, the lighting in the installation simulates the night view of the plantain grove, and it immediately gives a different feeling because you don't really see that kind of installation in galleries. And when people are walking through the plantain grove, they can vaguely see writings on the leaves, sort of. It's also something that you don't normally see, so the atmosphere and the first floor gallery creates some kind of uneasiness for the visitors. In the other room on the ground floor gallery has the surveillance camera that's recording the activities in the plantain grove at night. People can see what is going on in the gallery when they were not there. I'm always curious what happens in an exhibition space when nobody's here. Is there somebody living in the space when no one else is here? Is there some kind of extraordinary activity happening? So I'm really curious about what the surveillance camera will show as well. And where you're watching what's happening and anticipating, expecting something interesting that will come up from the video or the installation, you're creating a conversation with something that you cannot see, sort of having anticipation and desiring something and wanting to see something that you want to see, and basically you're creating you're starting a dialogue with the unseen world. The first starting point that I have of making this installation is to include the pillars as part of the installation. This is a space that's different from a normal space I would work with, sort of big open spaces. And so when I came in here, I tried to incorporate the pillars into the installation. That's why you see the gunpowder drawings are not hung sort of the stereotypical gallery hung way. Sort of, it's not regular, it's not static, because I'm trying to create a dialogue with the space as well. And this is my first idea. I'm trying to create two spaces in this gallery floor, the space that we're walking on, and then sort of another world above us, sort of presenting a different world. There are a lot of cultures and different traditional practices around the world that can be associated with putting needles through dolls, such as the voodoo dolls and different kinds of witchcraft or wizardry that you would, if somebody wants bad things happen to another person, maybe have them, decrease their life or some kind of bad wishes. This is sort of the practice that people use. So you can interpret these dolls this one way, but also if you look at it from a different way, needles are also used for acupuncture. Sometimes when in traditional practices you put pins on these dolls, you're not wishing them bad health, you're actually trying to scare away the evil spirits, the bad spirits that's causing the sickness or any kind of illness. So this can also be associated with the good part of a good side of using sort of needles on paper dolls.
这个2楼这个展厅，我们还有
There are 11 gunpowder drawings here. I made 13 of them. 2 of them are at the Portrait Gallery. And these portraits are based on, they're all related to Scotland's history. Sort of the figures are either related to witchcraft practices, or their prophets, or their medium, or they have the ability to see the future or have anything to do with the unseen world. I read the stories about them and used that as inspiration to the jump board to make the portraits.
Past, the professor said, is an object you feel in the dark. It's a shape that flits briefly at your side in broad daylight as you walk down the street. It's a memory you never had, insistently demanding to be recalled. It's a figure fading against a wall even as you see it. Everybody leaves an echo behind them. We will all, even if only briefly, haunt the places we have been. I was asked by the Fruitmarket to collaborate with Cai on Life Beneath the Shadow, and we met with him back in April and had a long discussion about what he was intending to do and how my work might fit in with that. One of the things about Cai's portraits that I find really interesting is that several of the people we chose don't have any contemporary pictures of, we don't have images of them, we don't know what they look like. People like the Brandseer and Bald Agnes and the Lady of Lors and Robert Kirk and a number of others. It's guesswork as to what they look like. So in those instances, he's had to really use his imagination to create images of them. And I think it's absolutely fascinating what he's done. I'm particularly interested in Major Weir, who's a character who appears in my novel The Fanatic. And the first image I've ever seen of Major Weir is the one that Cai has created for this exhibition. And there he is with his staff, looming through the dark. He was a very tall man, looming through the dark as he kind of goes on his way through the closes of Edinburgh. And there down also in the portrait in the corner is his sister Jean, who suffered execution along with him for her part in his various crimes. And it's just a very powerful image, and I think it's a very important image. I think one of the things that Cai tries to do is to give validity to people's lives, to the lives of people who've gone before, and he does that by as it were, creating permanent images of them. And I think that's that particular one, but also the ones of other people who we don't have images of. I think he's done an important job there.
For the making of the gunpowder drawings, I use mostly black gunpowder, but sometimes I mix it with other things. And the way that I use the gunpowder, there's different thickness, different sizes of the gunpowder and different types. I use them according to sort of the portrait I want to make, sort of the layout of the portrait, and also uses this sort of the special characters of these different kind of gunpowder and connect that kind of energy with the energy of the person that I'm doing the portrait of, sort of mixing the two together, and results in sort of different effects. Some of them are very realistic, some of them are more sort of abstract, and it has to do with not only the characteristic of the gunpowder, but also the person.
当然，他也是给我的一个信号，是我。
The director of the Scottish National Portrait Gallery, Mr. James Holloway, spoke to me about their space and sort of mentioned that they have these death masks in their collection, and he was trying to figure out a way to show them and asked me if I had any ideas. And I learned that these death masks are of murders in history, and the use of these death masks is for the authorities then to investigate whether they have any resemblance, sort of, I guess we would call it genetic resemblance of what would be a common look. So I thought that was a very interesting idea and a cultural practice. We don't hear that much about building a monument or painting a portrait of a sort of shameful person or somebody who has done bad deeds to the society. And so when they asked me if I could find a way to do something like that, I decided that I would have a sort of a pagoda shaped shelf and put them with black plants. In a way, there's sort of, this is a monument for them, but in a way, there's more sort of spiritual and emotional sort of tribute to them, and that is the result of the installation. Originally, when I started to do this project, I was thinking along the lines of the sort of life beneath the shadow, that Edinburgh has sort of a different story that's for the Edinburgh that people don't see, sort of the ghost stories and the spirits. So I thought that it's an interesting way of interpreting the black rainbow or black gunpowder, black fireworks in a different way. Sort of, there's this part of Edinburgh that we don't normally see, and so I created this sort of a black cloud during the day, and sort of creating an idea of life beneath the shadow as well.